Welcome, dear listeners, to another cozy night of myths and magic. Settle in, snuggle down, and let your imagination take flight. Tonight, we journey to the heart of Asgard for a tale of love, deception, and the chilling consequences of a golden ornament. We'll explore the story of Odin and Frigga, a time when a queen's desire for beauty brought a long, cold winter to the realms. It's a powerful story, reminding us that even in the grandest halls, small choices can have vast impacts. But just before we begin, if our stories help you drift off, please tap the like and subscribe buttons. In my channel, you can find Norse, Greek, and Egyptian mythology tales. Comment and tell me which myth you'd like to hear next. Your support helps us craft and shape more calm stories for fellow night owls. And now let your shoulders sink softly into the mattress and your mind drift into today's tale. The golden glow of Asgard shimmered. It bathed everything in a soft, ethereal light. This was a realm of unparalleled beauty. Gods and goddesses resided here. Rainbows arched over crystalline palaces. Their vibrant colors danced in the air. Gardens bloomed with impossible flowers. Each petal held a whisper of magic. Rivers of liquid starlight flowed gently. They sang a lullaby to the immortal land. Asgard was a symphony of splendor. It was a testament to divine craftsmanship. Every stone, every leaf, every cloud spoke of perfection. The air itself hummed with power. It thrummed with ancient, joyful energy, and at its heart stood Valhalla. It was Odin's magnificent hall. Its golden roof gleamed. It pierced the sky like a spear of light. Heroes feasted within its hallowed walls. Their laughter echoed through the ages. But beyond the grand halls, there were quieter spaces. There were sun-drenched courtyards. There were shaded groves. They offered respite from the eternal revelry. These were places for contemplation. They were places for gentle dreams. Frigga often sought these serene spots. She was the queen of Asgard. Her presence brought a calm grace. Her heart held a quiet wisdom. She walked with a gentle tread. Her silken robes brushed against the dew-kissed grass. Today, she stood on a high balcony. It overlooked the sprawling city. The view was breathtaking. It stretched to the very edges of existence. The Bifrost Bridge pulsed with light. It connected Asgard to other worlds. But Frigga's gaze was not fixed on distant realms. It rested closer to home. It lingered on the familiar landscape. She saw the bustling markets. She saw the training grounds. She saw the homes of her beloved people. Asgard was abundant. It was filled with every conceivable wonder. Treasures from across the 9 realms adorned its halls. Jewels sparkled in every corner. Fine silks draped elegant forms. Yet, a subtle longing stirred within Frigga. It was not a longing for more. It was a longing for something unique. It was a desire for something truly her own. It was a quiet, almost imperceptible yearning. It was for a beauty unlike any other. She possessed countless jewels. Each one was flawless, She wore robes woven from starlight. Her crown was wrought from celestial gold. Still, a small space in her heart remained open. It waited for a singular, exquisite beauty. Frigga was a goddess of motherhood. She was a goddess of marriage. She was a goddess of weaving. Her hands were skilled. They could spin clouds into thread. They could weave fate into tapestries. Her touch brought comfort. Her voice brought peace. Her presence brought harmony. She was loved by all. Odin adored her. Her children cherished her. The people of Asgard revered her. Yet this gentle desire persisted. It was a soft, persistent whisper. It was a longing for a beauty that transcended the ordinary. It was a beauty that spoke to her soul. It was a beauty that held a secret. Her eyes drifted across the landscape. They scanned the familiar sights. Then they settled on a colossal statue. It stood in the central square. It was a monument to Odin. It was a symbol of his might. The statue was carved from mountain stone. Its surface was polished to a gleam. It depicted Odin in his full glory. He held Gungnir, his mighty spear. His eye, the one remaining, gazed fiercely forward. Its scale was immense. It towered over the square. It cast a long shadow. It stretched across the bustling marketplace. Birds nested in its crevices. Clouds often wreathed its head, but it was not the sheer size that drew Frigga's attention. It was a specific detail. A golden ornament adorned its chest. It was a circular disc. It gleamed with an inner light. The ornament was intricately carved. It depicted ancient runes. They swirled in a mesmerizing pattern. It pulsed with a soft, warm glow. It seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Frigga had seen it countless times. She had passed it daily. But today, it seemed different. It seemed to call to her. It seemed to hum with a silent song. Its gold was unlike any other. It was not merely polished metal. It was as if captured sunlight resided within it. It radiated warmth. It radiated a subtle power. She tilted her head. Her brow furrowed slightly. What was it about this ornament? Why did it suddenly captivate her? She had always admired its craftsmanship, but now it held a deeper allure. It seemed to hold a secret. It seemed to whisper promises. It seemed to shine with a unique brilliance. It outshone all the other golden things in Asgard. It held a singular beauty. Frigga descended from the balcony. Her steps were light. They were unhurried. Her thoughts were focused. They centered on the golden disc. She wanted to see it closer. She wanted to understand its magic. She walked through the wide avenues. As guardians greeted her, their faces beamed with respect. She offered gentle smiles in return. Her mind, however, was elsewhere. It was on the statue. The air was filled with pleasant sounds. The distant clang of hammers, the joyous shouts of children, the melodic strains of harps, all contributed to Asgard's peaceful ambience. Frigga passed by a group of young gods. They practiced their swordplay. Their blades flashed in the sunlight. Their laughter rang out. She offered a nod of encouragement. They bowed respectfully. She moved with an effortless grace. Her presence brought a quiet calm. Even the boisterous training ceased for a moment. All eyes turned to her. She was the beloved queen. Finally, she reached the central square. The statue loomed before her. Its shadow stretched long. It enveloped her in its cool embrace. She stood at its base. She gazed up at the golden ornament. It truly was magnificent. The gold seemed alive. It seemed to shimmer with an internal fire. The runes seemed to shift. They seemed to dance in the light. Frigga reached out a hand. She did not touch it. Her fingers hovered near its surface. She felt a warmth emanating from it. It was a gentle, comforting warmth. A faint hum reached her ears. It was almost imperceptible. It was like a buzzing bee. It was like a distant song. It seemed to emanate from the ornament itself. Her heart beat a little faster. It was not fear. It was not excitement. It was a quiet sense of wonder. It was a feeling of recognition. This was the beauty she sought. This was the unique piece. This was the exquisite item. It was unlike anything else. It held a special allure. It called to her soul. She stood there for a long time. The sun began to dip lower. Its rays painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. The golden ornament seemed to burn brighter. It caught the last light of day. Footsteps approached from behind. They were strong, deliberate steps. A familiar presence filled the air. It was Odin. He had returned from his daily ride. My dearest Frigga, his deep voice rumbled. It was filled with affection. What holds your attention so completely? Frigga turned. A soft smile touched her lips. Her eyes still held the golden glow. Odin, she said. Her voice was gentle. I was admiring your statue. Odin stood beside her. He was a majestic figure. His broad shoulders filled the space. His single eye gleamed with wisdom. His beard flowed like a silver river. He placed a large hand on her shoulder. His touch was warm. It was reassuring. A grand sight, is it not? He chuckled softly. A reminder of my enduring presence. Frigga nodded. Her gaze returned to the ornament. It is indeed, she agreed. But it is this piece, this golden disc, that truly captivates me today. Odin followed her gaze. He looked at the ornament. It was a gift from the dwarves. It was a symbol of his power. He had long worn it on his expeditions. Ah, the golden sun disk, Odin mused. A fine piece of dwarven craft. It has served me well. He had worn it into countless battles. He had worn it on many journeys. It holds a unique brilliance, Frigga observed. Her voice was soft. A warmth that seems to emanate from within. Odin considered her words. He had always seen it as a functional item. It was a symbol of his authority. It was a source of light in dark places, but he had never seen it through her eyes. It is imbued with ancient magic, Odin explained. dwarves wove spells into its very essence. It draws power from the sun itself. Frigga listened intently. Her eyes widened slightly. Magic, she whispered. What kind of magic? It grants clarity of vision, Odin replied. It illuminates hidden truths. It reveals the path ahead, even in the deepest shadows. He had used it to guide him. He had used it to foresee danger. Frigga's interest deepened. This was more than just beauty. It was beauty with purpose. It was beauty with power. It was everything she had secretly longed for. It is truly magnificent, Odin, she said. Her voice held a note of awe. More so than I ever realized. Odin smiled. He squeezed her shoulder gently. You have a keen eye for such things, my love. He knew her appreciation for artistry. He knew her love for all things beautiful. He turned to face her fully. His gaze was tender. It was filled with adoration. But no golden disk, however grand, compares to your own beauty, Frigga. Frigga blushed faintly. Her eyes sparkled. You are too kind, my lord. She leaned into his touch. She felt a deep contentment. Their love was a cornerstone of Asgard. It was a quiet, steadfast affection. It was built on trust. It was built on mutual respect. It was a beacon of stability. The people of Asgard looked to them. They saw their harmonious bond. It inspired peace. It inspired prosperity. It set an example for all. Odin was the mighty Allfather. He was the king of the gods. He commanded armies. He wielded immense power. But with Frigga, he was simply a loving husband. Frigga was the wise queen. She was the protector of the home. She knew the fates of all. But with Odin, she was simply a cherished wife. Their relationship was a testament. It showed that even gods needed love. It showed that even power found its balance. It found it in partnership. The sun continued its descent. The sky turned to a deep indigo. Stars began to prickle through the darkening canvas. The golden ornament on Odin's statue seemed to glow even brighter now. It was a silent promise. Frigga felt a growing fascination. It was a gentle pull. It was a quiet obsession. She knew this was the beauty she desired. This was the unique piece. She imagined holding it. She imagined feeling its warmth. She imagined understanding its magic. She imagined it illuminating her own path. But it was Odin's. It was a part of his statue. It was a symbol of his reign. It was not hers to take. It was not hers to desire so openly. So she kept her thoughts to herself. She simply admired it. She allowed the longing to grow. It was a seed planted in her heart. It was watered by her quiet yearning. Come, my love, Odin said. His voice was soft. The evening grows cool. Let us return to Valhalla. Frigga nodded. She took his outstretched hand. Their fingers intertwined. She cast one last glance at the golden ornament. Its glow seemed to follow her. As they walked away, the square grew quiet. The golden disk pulsed steadily. It radiated its silent magic. It awaited its destiny. Frigga's mind was still on it. The image was etched into her memory. The warmth, the hum, the shimmering light. It was all she could think of. She smiled to herself. A subtle plan began to form. It was a gentle, unfolding thought. How could she possess such a treasure without taking it from Odin, without causing him distress? She knew Odin loved her deeply. He would deny her nothing. But this was his symbol. This was his power. It was more than just an ornament, a delicate challenge, a gentle quest. She would find a way. She would make this beauty her own. The golden glow of Asgard had always been hers. But this specific glow, this unique light, filled her with a new, quiet determination. The stars above Asgard twinkled. They mirrored the golden light. They reflected the promise of new beginnings. They whispered of hidden desires. They hinted at unfolding fates. And so, Frigga walked beside her beloved Odin, her hand in his, her heart filled with a silent longing. And the golden glow of the sun disk remained. It shone brightly in the heart of Asgard. It waited for her. It waited for its true purpose. The golden ornament shimmered. It gleamed, even in her memory. Frigga found her thoughts returning to it. She pictured its intricate design. Its delicate filigree seemed to whisper. The sun had caught it just so. That night, sleep came slowly. Her dreams were restless, filled with golden light. The ornament danced before her eyes. It spun, it twirled, it pulsed with an inner glow. She reached for it. Then the dream shifted. The ornament was no longer fixed. It began to float. It hovered near her throat. It settled there, cool and smooth against her skin. It became a necklace. She saw herself in the dream. Her reflection was clear. The golden ornament adorned her. It enhanced her beauty. Her eyes sparkled, her smile broadened. A feeling of profound satisfaction washed over her. She awoke with a start. The morning light was pale, yet the image persisted. The ornament, a necklace around her neck. The dream felt too real. It left a lasting impression. A subtle ache began in her heart. It was a longing, a desire for that golden adornment. It gnawed at her peace. She tried to dismiss it. Such thoughts were unworthy. She was Frigga, queen of Asgard. She had a loving husband. She had beautiful children. Her home was grand. She possessed everything she needed. This craving was foolish. Yet the image returned. It crept into her thoughts. It flashed before her eyes. The ornament on the altar. The ornament around her neck. The contrast was stark. Days passed. The feeling intensified. Frigga found herself distracted. Her attention wandered. Her usual duties felt mundane. Her mind drifted constantly. She would pause during her weaving. Her loom would sit idle. Her fingers would still. She would stare into the distance. She would imagine the golden glow. She imagined its weight. She imagined its feel. She imagined the way it would lie. It would rest against her collarbone. It would catch the light. It would draw every eye. One afternoon, she walked through the halls. Her steps were slow. Her thoughts were heavy. She yearned for something. She knew what it was. It was the golden ornament. A shadow fell across her path. Loki stood there. His smile was familiar. It held a knowing glint. He bowed slightly. His eyes twinkled with mischief. "Good day, Queen Frigga," he purred. His voice was smooth. It was like polished stone. It was like flowing water. It was strangely hypnotic. "Loki," she replied. Her voice was flat. Her mind was elsewhere. She wished to be alone. She did not wish for company, especially not his. He seemed to sense her mood. Or perhaps he anticipated it. He moved closer. He spoke softly. His words were carefully chosen. They were insidious. "You seem troubled, my queen," he observed. His gaze was steady. It pierced through her defenses. It seemed to see into her very soul. Frigga hesitated. She almost denied it. But the longing was too strong. It was too visible. It was etched on her face. It was in her posture. "It is nothing, Loki," she said. Her voice was weak. She tried to sound dismissive. The attempt failed utterly. He merely smiled. "Ah, but I think it is something," he countered. His tone was gentle. It was sympathetic. It invited confidence. He was a master of persuasion. "Perhaps," he continued, "it is a beauty you have seen." His eyes held hers. They seemed to probe. They seemed to guess. He was too clever. Frigga's heart quickened. He was too close. He was too perceptive. How could he know? Had she spoken aloud? Had she revealed her secret? "What do you mean?" she asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. A tremor ran through her. She felt exposed. She felt vulnerable. Loki chuckled softly. It was a pleasant sound. It was reassuring. It put her at ease. "I mean, my queen," he explained, "that sometimes true beauty captivates." He paused. His gaze drifted. He looked past her shoulder. His eyes seemed to focus. They seemed to fix on something unseen. "There are wonders in Asgard," he mused. His voice was dreamy. Objects of such exquisite artistry. They simply begged to be admired. Frigga listened intently. Her breath was held. She felt a strange pull. She felt a subtle connection. He was speaking her thoughts. He was voicing her desires. "And some," he continued, "are so magnificent. They seem incomplete. They seem to lack their true purpose until they find their perfect setting." He turned back to her. His eyes glittered. They held a knowing light. "Imagine such an object," he said. "A golden thing, perhaps." Frigga's breath hitched. He knew. He must know. The golden ornament. He was speaking of it. Her secret was no longer safe. "Imagine it," Loki pressed, "adorning someone. Someone truly worthy. Someone whose own radiance would be amplified. Someone like you, my queen." His words were like honey. They coated her ears. They filled her mind. They resonated deeply within her. They spoke to her vanity. It would not simply be an ornament, he declared. His voice grew stronger. It was persuasive. It was compelling. It would be a statement of power, he elaborated, of grace, of unparalleled beauty. It would reflect your glory. It would enhance your very being. Frigga felt a blush rise. Her cheeks warmed, her heart pounded. His words ignited a spark of desire, a spark of longing. But it is a sacred object, she whispered. Her voice was weak. It was a feeble protest. It was a token resistance. She knew it. Loki waved a dismissive hand. Sacred, perhaps, he conceded. His tone was light. It was almost mocking. But also merely an object. An object, he reiterated, that sits idly. It gathers dust. It fulfills no purpose. Its beauty is hidden. Its potential is wasted. He stepped closer still. His voice dropped. It became conspiratorial. It was an intimate whisper. It was irresistible. Imagine it, Queen Frigga, he urged. Around your neck. The golden light against your skin. The shimmer with every movement. He gestured vaguely. His hand traced a line. It was near her throat. It was where the ornament would lie. It was where she had dreamed it. It would complete you, he said. His eyes were fixed on hers. They held a strange intensity. They held a powerful conviction. Frigga's mind reeled. His words painted a vivid picture. She saw it clearly. The golden ornament around her neck, just as in her dream. The internal conflict raged. Her loyalty to Odin, her duty to Asgard, her moral compass, all warred against this burgeoning desire. No, she said, more firmly this time. It was an attempt, a desperate one, to push back, to resist the temptation. Loki merely smiled. It was a knowing smile. It held no malice. It held only understanding. It held quiet complicity. Of course not, my queen, he agreed. His voice was soothing. It was disarming. Such a thought is unthinkable. He paused. His gaze lingered. He let the words hang. He allowed them to sink in. He allowed them to take root. Unless, he added, almost as an afterthought, it were simply to be admired, to be truly appreciated. For a short time, he raised an eyebrow. His eyes held hers. They held a silent challenge. They held a subtle invitation. They held a promise. No one need know, he murmured. His voice was barely audible. It was a secret shared. It was a forbidden thought. Frigga's breath caught. His words echoed her own nascent thoughts, her own unspoken desires, her own secret imaginings. She had considered it. She had dismissed it. She had tried to forget it. But Loki's words had fanned the embers. They had made them glow. How, she asked. The word escaped her lips. It was involuntary. It was a surrender, a quiet capitulation. Loki's smile widened. It was a triumphant smile. Yet, it remained subtle. It remained controlled. He had planted the seed. There are ways, my queen, he purred. His eyes gleamed. They held a wicked delight. They held a cunning brilliance. Many ways, he continued. His voice was low. It was persuasive. It was tempting. To admire a treasure without consequence, Frigga felt a strange exhilaration, a thrill of forbidden possibility, a rush of daring, a sense of adventure. Her mind began to race, not about if asterisk she would acquire it, but how asterisk. How could she do it? How could she ensure secrecy? She considered the guards. The temple was always watched, but their attention sometimes wavered, especially late at night. She thought of the priests. They were devoted. They were vigilant. But they too had their routines, their moments of rest. A plan began to form, a nascent idea, a whisper of possibility. It was audacious. It was dangerous. It was thrilling. She would need a distraction, something to draw attention away, something to create a window, a brief opportunity. She would need to be swift, to be silent, to be invisible, to leave no trace, to raise no suspicion. Loki watched her. His silence was deliberate. He allowed the idea to blossom. He allowed the temptation to grow. He allowed her to construct her own path. He knew, he always knew, the workings of the heart, the desires of the mind, the subtle weaknesses, the hidden longings. Frigga looked up. Her eyes met his. They held a new light, a determined glint, a spark of resolve. "Thank you, Loki," she said. Her voice was soft. It held a new tone, a quiet intensity, a subtle gratitude. He merely bowed again. His smile lingered. It was a silent acknowledgement, a shared understanding, a secret pact. He turned and walked away. His steps were light. His form dissolved into the shadows. He left her alone, but not truly alone. He had left her with a thought, a powerful, compelling thought, a thought that now consumed her. The golden ornament. It was no longer just an object. It was a desire. It was a challenge. It was a secret. And she, Frigga, Queen of Asgard, would have it. She would find a way. She would make it hers. No one would ever know. The night air grew cooler. A gentle breeze stirred. It rustled through the palace gardens. It carried whispers, whispers of gold, whispers of temptation. Frigga's heart pulsed. The celestial alignment, rare and fleeting, cast long shadows. A velvet cloak of night enfolded Asgard. Stars shimmered, forming a cosmic tapestry. This was her chance. Odin, far away, spanned the 9 realms. Grave matters occupied him. He brokered peace, weighed destinies. His focus was absolute. He would not notice. Frigga moved with grace, silent steps through hallowed halls. Moonlight filtered through stained glass. Her hands, usually steady, trembled slightly. A thrill mingled with quiet fear. She reached the grand chamber. Odin's majestic statue stood there. The golden ornament gleamed, beckoning. She paused, calming her mind. This was a deep-seated longing. Her fingers hesitant, brushed the cool, smooth metal. The gold felt alive. With exquisite care, she loosened it. A soft click echoed. The ornament came free, resting in her palm. It felt light, yet profoundly significant. Triumph swelled. A secret smile touched her lips. She held the gleaming object, a fragment of sun. She quickly secreted it into her gown, then turned from the statue, untouched. Quiet exhilaration buoyed her spirit. She had done it. In her private chambers, bathed in soft lamplight, she laid the golden ornament on velvet. Its brilliance was breathtaking. Her delicate tools lay ready. Fine gold wires, tiny, gleaming gemstones. Hours passed. Frigga worked with intense focus. Her hands moved with practiced skill. She reshaped the gold, coaxing, molding it. It flowed, transforming into something magnificent. The central piece remained the heart. Around it, new forms emerged, delicate filigree twined, mimicking celestial pathways. Luminous stones, like distant stars, were set. The necklace grew, a cascade of light, a testament to her vision. Dawn approached. Frigga held up her creation. The new necklace shimmered, catching the first rays. It was more beautiful than she had imagined, a masterpiece. She fastened it around her neck. It felt like a part of her. She gazed at her reflection, eyes sparkling. Quiet pride shone. This was her secret, her beauty, her triumph. She wore it beneath her robes, a hidden treasure. No one would know. Meanwhile, a subtle shift rippled through Asgard. Odin felt it, a tremor, a discord. He paused his meditations, a whisper of unease, a faint tremor in the cosmic balance. He closed his eyes, extending his consciousness, touching Asgard's fabric. Nothing obvious. Yet, the feeling persisted, a single false note in a symphony. He could not pinpoint it, but knew it was there. He rose, walking to the window. The vast cosmos unfolded, but the disquiet grew. A prickle of suspicion began to form. He spent the morning in council, calm but restless. He dismissed them early, needing to think. He found himself drawn to his personal chambers. He entered the grand chamber. His statue stood there. He looked at it. Then he paused. Something was different. His heart lurched. The golden ornament. It was gone. A gaping void remained. Cold dread washed over him. This was impossible. The ornament was ancient, sacred, a symbol of his authority. And now it was gone. His hands clenched. Profound betrayal swept through him. Who would dare? His mind searched. No signs of forced entry. The theft was subtle, clean, precise. This was no ordinary thief. Someone skilled, cunning with access, with intimate knowledge. His thoughts turned inward. He had protected it. Its location known only to a few. Anger simmered, mingling with hurt. This was a violation, a personal affront. He felt the room's energy tainted. The balance shattered. He stood before the empty space. His eyes burned. His heart ached with a deep, personal wound, a profound sense of loss. Not just the object, but what it represented: trust, security, the sanctity of his domain. Could one of his confidants be responsible? Unthinkable. Yet evidence pointed to it, an inside job. The notion poisoned his spirit. He closed his eyes, trying to calm himself. Disappointment was immense. Trust shattered. He felt exposed, vulnerable. He would find the culprit, uncover the truth, restore the balance. His resolve hardened. But first, he needed to process this new reality. A shadow had fallen over Asgard. He stood for a long time. The chamber was still. Only his heart throbbed with pain, with fury. The morning sun illuminated the absence. Frigga, meanwhile, was in her garden. The sun warmed her. The new necklace lay hidden against her chest. She felt a thrill, a secret joy, a quiet defiance. She had claimed her own. She touched the hidden ornament. A slight smile played on her lips. She felt powerful, complete. The world was beautiful. She knew Odin would notice, would be angry. But he would not suspect her. She had planned this carefully. No one would ever know. She walked among the roses, savoring the moment. She thought of the statue, its empty space. Not guilt, but quiet acknowledgement. The world had shifted. She had tipped the scales. Her heart beat a steady rhythm, a drum of victory, a song of freedom. She had claimed her destiny. The necklace was a symbol of her strength. She would wear it always. Odin's unease deepened. The feeling of betrayal grew, coiling in his stomach. His belief in Asgard's goodness was shattered. A seed of doubt planted. He would investigate, question, find the truth. No matter the cost. His gaze hardened. Justice would be served. The balance restored. The golden ornament was more than metal. It was a piece of his soul. Its loss was profound, its absence a gaping wound. He could feel it, a constant ache. He would not rest until the truth was revealed. The air in the chamber grew heavy with grief, with rage. Asgard's calm facade was cracking. A new, dark chapter had begun. Odin, the Allfather, was shaken. The silence stretched. Life continued, unaware of the storm. He turned from the statue, gazed at the peaceful realm. But he knew better. He felt the disharmony, a subtle tremor, a premonition. The golden ornament, its beauty etched in his mind, its absence a wound. He would never forget this day, never forgive this act. His heart ached. He closed his eyes, trying to calm the storm within. The quest for truth would consume him. His vow, unbreakable. A new path stretched before him. And Frigga, his queen, wore her secret, her triumph. Unaware of his despair, of the storm she had unleashed, the golden halls of Asgard, usually bright with laughter, now echoed with a quiet, heavy silence. Odin stood before Frigga, his gaze not sharp with anger, but clouded with a deep, aching sorrow. His voice, when it came, was soft, a mere whisper in the vast chamber. "Frigga," he began, his tone a gentle caress, "my beloved queen, a shadow has fallen upon our home." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle between them. "The necklace, Brisingamen," he continued, his voice barely audible. "It is gone, and with it a piece of my trust, my faith in what we share." He did not accuse, not directly. His words were a lament, a mournful song of betrayal. Frigga's eyes, usually so bright, now shimmered with unshed tears. Her hands, clasped tightly before her, trembled almost imperceptibly. "Tell me, my dear," Odin urged, his voice still gentle. "Where is it? Where has it gone?" He stepped closer, his presence a warm, comforting embrace, yet tinged with an undeniable sadness. He reached out, his hand hovering for a moment, then resting lightly upon her arm. His touch was hesitant, a silent plea for honesty. Frigga flinched, a small, involuntary movement, as if touched by a sudden chill. "Odin," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "My king, my love." She could not meet his gaze. Her eyes darted away, seeking solace in the intricate patterns of the golden floor, anywhere but in the depths of his knowing eyes. Shame washed over her, a bitter tide, threatening to engulf her completely. She felt the warmth of his hand, a stark contrast to the cold knot of dread in her stomach. He waited patiently, his silence more powerful than any outburst. The stillness in the chamber grew, thick and suffocating. The air itself seemed to hum with unspoken truths, with the heavy burden of a secret finally coming to light. A lone ray of sunlight, streaming through a high-arched window, cast long, distorted shadows across the polished floor, mimicking the shadows in their hearts. Frigga swallowed hard, her throat dry, her voice barely a rasp. I took it, Odin." The words, once imprisoned, now tumbled out, small and fragile. "I could not resist its beauty, its allure. It whispered promises of power, of untold wisdom." Her confession was not an excuse, but a desperate attempt at explanation, a plea for understanding. Her head bowed, her golden hair, usually so radiant, seemed to dim. Odin's hand tightened ever so slightly on her arm, a gentle pressure that spoke volumes. He did not pull away, did not recoil in disgust. His sorrow deepened, a profound well of disappointment that reflected in his quiet sigh. "Frigga," he murmured, his voice laced with pain. "My heart aches. Not for the necklace, my dear, but for the untruth, for the deception that has come between us." He stepped back then, slowly, deliberately, creating a small chasm between them. The warmth of his touch receded, leaving her feeling exposed, vulnerable. "You, my queen," he continued, his voice still soft. "You are the anchor of my world, the keeper of my deepest trust. To know that you would conceal such a thing, it wounds me more deeply than any blade." His words were not a condemnation, but a lament, a mournful echo of shattered faith. Frigga finally lifted her head, her eyes brimming with tears, a silent plea for forgiveness. "I am sorry, my lord," she choked out, her voice raw with regret. So deeply, truly sorry. It was a moment of weakness, a foolish desire. Her shame was palpable, a heavy cloak she wore with unwilling grace. The weight of her transgression pressed down upon her, crushing her spirit. Odin looked at her, his gaze unwavering, full of a love that was now tinged with an unbearable sadness. "I know, my dear," he said, his voice imbued with a weariness that settled deep in his bones. "I know the allure of such things, but it is the trust, Frigga, the sacred bond between us, that has been fractured." He paused, his gaze drifting towards the immense, ornate doors of the hall. "Asgard," he mused, his voice distant now, "our home, our sanctuary. It thrives on harmony, on truth. And now a discord has been struck. A note of falseness has entered our song." His words hung in the air, a melancholic melody. He turned fully away from her, his broad shoulders slumped, a picture of profound sorrow. The vibrant tapestry on the wall behind him seemed to lose its color, its brilliance. "I must leave, Frigga," he announced, his voice firm now, though still devoid of anger. It was a decision made not in haste, but with a heavy, deliberate resolve. "Not as punishment, my love, never that. But for us, for Asgard, for the balance that must be restored." He did not look back at her, knowing that to do so might weaken his resolve. Frigga gasped, a small, heartbroken sound. "Leave," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But where would you go? And for how long?" Her mind reeled, grappling with the suddenness, the finality of his declaration. The idea of Asgard without Odin, without his steady presence, was unthinkable, a world unmoored. "I do not know, my dear," Odin replied, his voice still gentle yet firm. "Perhaps I will wander the realms, seek counsel from the ancient stones, from the whispers of the winds." He spoke of a journey not of discovery, but of introspection, a solitary pilgrimage to mend what had been broken. His words painted a picture of a king adrift, seeking solace in the vast emptiness of the cosmos. "My presence here, Frigga," he explained, his voice imbued with a quiet logic, "would only serve to perpetuate this disharmony. It would be a constant reminder of the breach, a shadow cast upon our love." He believed that distance, a period of separation, was necessary for healing, for reflection. He hoped that in his absence, Frigga would truly understand the depth of his pain, the gravity of her actions. "You need time to reflect," he continued, his words a gentle command, "to understand the true cost of deceit. And I, too, need time to mend this wound in my heart." His voice held no blame, only a quiet, resolute determination. He was not abandoning her, but giving them both the space to heal, to find their way back to each other, if indeed that was still possible. He walked slowly towards the great doors, his steps unhurried, each one heavy with the weight of his decision. The hall, usually bustling with life, seemed to hold its breath. The air grew still, expectant, as if anticipating a profound shift in the very fabric of their world. The sunlight, once warm and inviting, now seemed to pale, its golden hue fading to a softer, more muted tone. Frigga watched him go, her body frozen, her mind reeling. She wanted to call out, to beg him to stay, to promise anything to undo her mistake. But the Words caught in her throat, strangled by the enormity of her regret. Her tears flowed freely now, hot rivulets tracing paths down her pale cheeks. The silence in the hall pressed in on her, a deafening roar of remorse. Odin reached the threshold, his hand resting for a moment on the ornate doorframe. He paused, his back to her, and then, with a deep sigh, he pushed the doors open. A soft, cool breeze, unexpected within the warm confines of the palace, drifted into the hall. It carried with it a faint, unfamiliar scent, the crisp, clean smell of frost, of distant, snow-laden peaks. He stepped out into the courtyard, his figure silhouetted against the sky. The vibrant green of the eternal realm, usually so vivid and alive, seemed to dim slightly. The golden leaves on the trees, which always shimmered with an otherworldly light, now appeared a shade duller, their brilliance muted. A subtle shift, almost imperceptible, yet undeniably present. As he walked away, his majestic form growing smaller with each step, a stillness descended upon Asgard. The usual joyous sounds, the distant laughter of the Einherjar, the cheerful chatter of the palace servants, the gentle rustle of leaves, all seemed to fade, replaced by an eerie quiet. The air itself grew noticeably cooler, the warmth that usually permeated Asgard beginning to recede. A shiver ran through Frigga, a chill that had nothing to do with the cool breeze now sweeping through the hall. It was a premonition, a cold dread that seeped into her bones. She watched as Odin mounted Sleipnir, his magnificent eight-legged steed, who stood patiently, his breath visible in the suddenly cooler air. The great horse's usual spirited whinny was absent, replaced by a soft, almost mournful snort. Odin did not look back. He simply urged Sleipnir forward, and the majestic creature galloped away, his powerful hooves making no sound on the golden path. They vanished quickly, swallowed by the vastness of the realm, leaving behind an emptiness that resonated deep within Frigga's heart. The golden gates of Asgard, usually gleaming with welcoming light, seemed to lose their luster, their radiance. The air around her grew colder still. A faint, almost imperceptible mist began to rise from the ground, clinging to the emerald grass. The vibrant flowers in the palace gardens, usually in full bloom, seemed to droop slightly, their petals curling inward as if seeking warmth. A single, delicate snowflake, the very first of its kind, drifted lazily through the air, landing softly on the polished marble of the courtyard. It was a stark contrast to the perpetual spring that usually embraced Asgard. The light, once a constant, brilliant gold, now seemed to soften, taking on a pale, silvery hue. The shadows lengthened, stretching far across the landscape, hinting at a fading sun, an encroaching twilight. The warmth that had been a hallmark of this realm, a reflection of Odin's benevolent presence, was slowly, steadily receding. A subtle chill began to creep into every corner of Asgard. It was not a biting frost, not yet, but a gentle, insidious cold that hinted at something deeper, something more profound. It was the first sign of the coming winter, a season unknown to Asgard until this very moment. The leaves on the world tree, Yggdrasil, which usually shimmered with eternal life, now seemed to whisper a mournful sigh, their emerald green tinged with a faint, unfamiliar silver. The very essence of Asgard seemed to shift, to subtly alter its nature. The air, once sweet and fragrant with the scent of eternal blossoms, now carried a crisp, clean scent, the scent of approaching frost, of dormant earth. The sounds of the realm, once vibrant and full of life, became muffled, as if wrapped in a thick, unseen blanket. A quiet hung over everything, a solemn hush. Frigga stood alone in the vast hall, the silence deafening, the cold seeping into her very soul. She wrapped her arms around herself, seeking warmth that was no longer there. The golden light of Asgard, once a comfort, now felt distant, unwelcoming. The once vibrant tapestries on the walls seemed to darken, their colors muted by the encroaching shadows. She looked towards the open doors, a desolate figure in a suddenly desolate hall. The world outside, once bathed in perpetual spring, was now subtly changing. The sky, usually an endless expanse of brilliant blue, now seemed to hold a faint, silvery gray tint, like the promise of distant clouds. The very air tasted different, colder, sharper on her tongue. The first chill had arrived, a silent, poignant herald of Odin's departure. It was a tangible manifestation of the sorrow, the broken trust that now permeated Asgard. And Frigga, wrapped in her own regret, felt its icy touch most keenly of all. The once vibrant colors of their home seemed to fade, replaced by a palette of muted tones, reflecting the profound shift that had just occurred. The birds, which usually sang cheerful melodies in the gardens, were silent. Even the gentle murmur of the hidden streams seemed to lessen, their flow becoming more subdued. A profound stillness settled upon the realm, a hush that spoke of loss and the quiet, inexorable march of a new, colder season. This was not just a change in weather. It was a fundamental alteration of Asgard itself, a direct consequence of the king's broken heart. Frigga closed her eyes, wishing she could rewind time, undo her actions. But the past was immutable, and the future, now shrouded in an unfamiliar chill, stretched before her, uncertain and cold. The weight of her betrayal, coupled with Odin's departure, pressed down upon her, a burden almost too heavy to bear. The golden halls, once a sanctuary, now felt like a lonely, echoing tomb. The first snowflakes had been delicate, like scattered pearls upon the vibrant tapestry of Asgard. But now, the snow fell with a relentless fury, a blizzard born of forgotten realms, blanketing Asgard in a thick, suffocating white. The very air was sharp with ice, biting at exposed skin, and a piercing wind, a mournful wail from Jotunheim itself, howled through the once bustling streets, stripping the ancient, gnarled trees bare. Their branches, once heavy with golden apples or shimmering leaves, now clawed at the perpetually twilight sky like skeletal fingers, rattling with an eerie, rhythmic clatter. The glorious sun, once a fiery heart in the heavens, became a pale, distant orb, a smudged memory of warmth, its golden rays absorbed and swallowed by the oppressive white. Perpetual twilight settled, heavy with the scent of ice, of damp stone, and of an unspoken dread that permeated every breath. The very light seemed to have been leached from the world, leaving behind a monochrome canvas of despair. Frigga watched from the frosted windows of Fensalir, her breath pluming in delicate, ephemeral clouds that mirrored the fading hope within her. Her once verdant gardens, the pride of Asgard, where golden apples had ripened on the bough, and the laughter of playful Norns had often echoed, were now a barren expanse. The meticulously sculpted hedges, once bursting with life and color, were mere mounds of snow, their intricate patterns buried beneath the relentless drift. The vibrant hues of her beloved roses, the deep greens of the ancient yews, all were swallowed by the pervasive white, leaving behind only the stark, skeletal outlines of what had been. A profound silence had fallen upon Asgard, the joyous laughter of children at play in the sun-drenched courtyards, the rhythmic clang of hammers from the forge, where master craftsmen shaped Mjolnir's kin, the boisterous songs of warriors returning from battle. All had ceased. This was not the restorative winter of Niflheim's gentle slumber, a time for reflection and renewal, but a deep, consuming chill, seeping into the realm's very bones, a frost that promised no thaw. Asgard's vibrant colors, once a kaleidoscope of gold and sapphire, emerald and ruby, faded into a muted palette, swallowed by the pervasive white and a mournful, bruised gray that hung heavy in the air. Plants withered, their vitality drained, and the bountiful orchards, once teeming with life and the promise of sustenance, became skeletal reminders of a prosperity now lost, their gnarled branches rattling like dry bones in the ceaseless wind. The gods and goddesses, once vibrant and robust, now showed the strain of this unnatural winter. Thor, the mighty thunderer, walked with a stoop, his broad shoulders, once capable of bearing the weight of worlds, now seemed bowed by an invisible burden. Mjolnir, his trusty hammer, usually held aloft with effortless grace, felt less like a weapon and more like a crushing weight, its very essence dimmed by the pervasive cold. He would often run a gloved hand over its cold, unyielding surface, as if seeking some lost spark of its former power. Sif, her golden hair usually a beacon of light, kept it tucked beneath a heavy, fur-lined hood, her spirit diminished, her vibrant eyes now shadowed with a weariness that belied her eternal youth. The playful glint that had once danced in her eyes was replaced by a quiet, haunted look, as if she saw specters in the swirling snow. Even Loki, the trickster, lost his mischievous gleam. The usual sardonic curve of his lips straightened into a thin, anxious line. His eyes, usually alight with cunning and amusement, held a genuine fear, a raw vulnerability that was unsettling to witness. He would often pace the great hall, his usually fluid movements jerky and agitated, pausing only to stare out at the relentless storm, as if seeking an escape that was not there. Their powers waned under the crushing weight of the cold. Heimdall, the all-seeing, whose gaze could pierce the veil of realms, now found his sight blurred by the ceaseless blizzard, the Bifrost's distant hum of faint, almost inaudible whisper in his ears. Bragi, the bard of the gods, whose verses could stir the hearts of armies and bring joy to the most stoic, now found his melodies became mournful laments, his lyre strings vibrating with an ache that echoed the realm's suffering. Despair was a palpable presence, a thick fog that clung to every corner of Asgard. Conversations were hushed, whispered fears carried on the frigid air, and hope, that most precious of commodities, threatened to extinguish entirely, like a flickering candle in a gale. Frigga felt it most acutely, this gnawing despair. A bitter, corrosive guilt gnawed at her, a constant, dull ache beneath her ribs. Odin's absence was not merely a void, but a gaping wound, bleeding life from Asgard with every passing moment. She had sent him away, her anger a blinding shroud that had obscured the true consequences of her words, consequences now manifest in the frozen desolation around her, every shiver that racked the body of a weakened god, every pang of hunger that echoed in the silent halls, every mournful cry of a child, all pointed back to her. A constant, unbearable accusation. Her harsh words, flung in the heat of a righteous fury, echoed in the frigid silence of Fensalir. You chose your quest over us. She understood the bitter irony now. Her pride, her wounded heart, had endangered them all, had brought Asgard to its knees. Loneliness was not merely a feeling, but a constant companion, a cold presence at her side. The vast halls of Fensalir, once filled with the warmth of family and the bustle of servants, were now cold and empty, the tapestries on the walls seeming to absorb the light rather than reflect it. The echoes of her own footsteps were the only sounds, a hollow reminder of what was lost. She missed his steady hand, the comforting weight of it in hers, a silent anchor in a turbulent world. She yearned for his wise counsel, the quiet authority in his voice that could calm the storm within her, that could untangle the most Gordian knots of fate. She missed his quiet strength, the unspoken assurance that all would be well when he was near. In the early days of this unnatural winter, Frigga tried to maintain a facade of hope, walking among the gods, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart, offering words of encouragement, a comforting touch to a chilled hand. We must endure, she'd say, her gaze sweeping over their drawn faces, trying to ignite a spark of their former fire. The spring will come. Odin will return. But doubt, a venomous serpent, whispered in her heart, its cold coils tightening around her every waking moment, feeding on her guilt. The granaries, once overflowing with the bounty of Asgard's rich soil, were nearly empty, their vast chambers echoing with the hollowness of their contents. Idun's apples, the golden fruit that sustained the gods' youth and vitality, were scarce, their shimmering glow dulled, their life-giving essence diminished. Gods, once immortal and impervious, weakened by the cold and hunger, grew susceptible to illness, their divine resilience eroding with each passing day. Frigga oversaw the rationing with a heavy heart, her brow furrowed with the immense responsibility. stretching the meager supplies as far as humanly possible. Each portion a painful reminder of their dwindling resources. She visited the sick, her hands, once adorned with jewels, now chapped and reddened from the cold, brewing bitter teas from what scarce herbs remained, listening to their whispered fears. Each ailing god, a fresh stab of guilt twisting in her gut. Her sleep was fitful, a tormented landscape of nightmares, haunted by vivid, terrifying visions of Odin lost to the void, of Asgard crumbling into dust, its golden spires collapsing into the endless snow. She would awaken in the pre-dawn gloom, drenched in a cold sweat, her heart hammering against her ribs, the echoes of the wind's mournful howl outside her window merging with the cries of her dream self. Helplessness, a feeling alien to the Queen of Asgard, crept in like the insidious frost, numbing her spirit. She, the protector, the gentle mother of the realm, felt utterly powerless, her divine strength useless against this relentless, silent siege. One bleak afternoon, the light outside the council hall windows a watery, despairing gray tear, his face grim and etched with worry, announced, "The stores will last another month, perhaps two, if we are exceedingly frugal." Frigga closed her eyes, the weight of their collective gaze upon her, a palpable burden. She, once a beacon of strength, a steadfast anchor in times of crisis, felt her resolve falter, her knees threatening to buckle under the crushing weight of their despair. The Aesir spoke of Odin constantly, their voices laced with a deep, aching longing, a hunger for his return that was almost as profound as their physical hunger. Children, usually boisterous and full of life, were quiet, their laughter a rare, precious sound. They would huddle in corners, their small fingers clumsy with charcoal drawing crude pictures of him, a single eye, a wide-brimmed hat, the faint outline of Gungnir, their innocent hope a sharp, painful contrast to the despair that gripped their elders. Elders, their faces lined with the wisdom of ages, now recounted the terrifying Ragnarok prophecies, their voices hushed and trembling. The ancient verses, once merely stories, now terrifyingly real, mirroring the desolate reality outside. The longing for Odin's return was not merely emotional, but a physical ache, a gaping void in the heart of Asgard that only he could fill. Days bled into weeks, then into months, each one colder, each one dimmer than the last. The snow piled higher and higher, dwarfing even the tallest spires, transforming Asgard into a vast, silent tomb of white. Frigga often stood by the Bifrost Bridge, its once magnificent archway now a collapsed ruin, buried beneath drifts of snow that reached to the heavens. She would stand there for hours, her cloak whipped by the biting wind, her gaze sweeping the endless white horizon, searching, always searching, for a sign, any sign, of his return. She remembered their last meeting, the heated words, her unforgiving stance, her unyielding pride. How she wished, with a desperate, raw yearning that twisted her very being, that she could take them back, to rewind time to that moment and choose a different path. Guilt, a heavy, suffocating cloak woven from sorrow and regret, weighed her down, each thread a memory of her harshness. she saw the shivering gods, their once brilliant eyes now dim and hollow, the hungry children, their small faces pinched with cold, and she felt like a failure, a queen who had failed her people, a wife who had failed her husband. She would retreat to her chambers, the cold stone walls offering little comfort, and trace Odin's face in her mind, the familiar lines, the wisdom in his single eye, the gentle curve of his lips. Their bond, once an unbreakable thread woven by fate itself, felt shattered by her anger, frayed and brittle, almost severed. She prayed to the Norns, those enigmatic weavers of destiny, her voice hoarse with emotion, begging them to guide Odin home, to untangle the threads of fate that kept him from them. But they remained silent, their loom unmoving, their whispers unheard, their will inscrutable. Sorrow, a tangible presence, thickened the very air, making it heavy and difficult to breathe. Banners, once proudly unfurled in the wind, hung limp and tattered from the frozen battlements, their vibrant colors faded to muted shades of despair. The great halls, once resounding with laughter and merriment, were cavernous and cold, their echoing silence a constant reminder of the life that had fled. Gods spoke in hushed tones of the golden age, of glorious battles won, of feasts that lasted for days. Now a fading memory, a dream that seemed impossible to reclaim. Frigga heard their unspoken thought, their silent accusation, carried on the frigid air. If only Odin were here. She felt the quiet blame, a subtle resentment that pricked at her already raw nerves. Cracks, hairline fractures at first, then widening fissures, appeared in the ancient stones of Asgard, as if the very foundations of the realm groaned under the immense, unnatural strain of the endless winter. Asgard itself seemed to be groaning, a deep, resonant rumble that vibrated through the ground, a sigh of protest against the relentless cold. Animals suffered too, their wild instincts dulled by hunger and exposure. Wolves, their fur matted with snow, huddled together by dwindling, sputtering fires, their eyes reflecting a primal fear. Ravens, usually bold and cunning, perched on frozen branches, their calls hoarse and weak, their black feathers ruffled by the biting wind. Frigga watched them, her heart aching for their plight, for the suffering of all creatures in her realm. Even the wild, the untamed heart of Asgard, knew his absence, felt the void he left behind. The days grew shorter, each one bleeding into the next with a monotonous, chilling regularity, the gloom deepening with every passing hour. Frigga felt trapped in a waking nightmare, a prisoner of the ice and the relentless wind. Her hands were chapped and raw from the cold, her face, once serene and beautiful, etched with worry, lines of exhaustion carved around her eyes. She stared at Odin's empty throne in the great hall, its golden gleam dulled by the pervasive gloom, a stark, silent monument to his agonizing absence. The very air around it seemed colder, a chill that seeped into her bones. She yearned for his voice, for the sound of his steady footsteps, for the warmth of his presence. A yearning so profound it was a physical ache. The Aesir, in their desperation, prayed more fervently than ever before, their voices rising in a ragged chorus, a desperate plea to whatever powers would listen. They prayed for guidance, for warmth, for an end to the suffering that consumed them. Frigga joined them, kneeling before the ancient altars, her head bowed, her hands clasped in supplication, offering what meager sacrifices remained, the smoke curling weakly into the frigid air. "Bring him home," she whispered, her voice raw with emotion, with the accumulated weight of months of fear and despair. For Asgard perishes without him. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the relentless, mournful howl of the wind, a chilling chorus of despair that echoed across the frozen plains. The winter deepened, its icy grip tightening around Asgard, squeezing the last vestiges of life from its once vibrant heart. Asgard, once a beacon of light and glory, faded into a profound, suffocating gloom, a frozen monument to a love lost and a realm in peril. Seventh month waned, its last frosty breath clinging to the eaves and turrets of Asgard. Winter, a relentless, silver-haired giant, had gripped the shining realm in its icy embrace for what felt like an eternity. Fires, once roaring hearths of communal warmth and laughter, now burned low, their embers a faint, struggling pulse against the encroaching chill. Snow, a thick, pristine blanket, muffled every sound, transforming the vibrant clang of hammers and the joyous shouts of children into hushed whispers. A deep silence, heavy with sorrow and the unspoken dread of a realm adrift, settled over Asgard like a shroud woven from frozen tears. Yet, beneath this oppressive blanket of despair, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift began, a faint stirring, like the first tentative bud pushing through the hardened earth, a fragile promise of hope. Heimdall, the ever-vigilant sentinel of Asgard, whose senses were usually as sharp and clear as the mountain air, had felt them dull, blunted by the pervasive cold and the gnawing anxiety that had permeated the very stones of the realm since Odin's self-imposed exile. His golden eyes, accustomed to piercing the veils between worlds, had been clouded with worry. But now, as he stood at the precipice of the Rainbow Bridge, the Bifrost, his golden horn, Gjallarhorn, silent at his side, a new vibration began to hum within the ancient, magical structure beneath his feet. It was not the familiar thrum of transit, nor the distant clamor of encroaching threats. This was different. This was a frequency he hadn't felt in 7 long months, a resonance that resonated deep within his very being. He saw a flicker, not of light, for the sun was a pale, distant memory in this endless winter, but of change. It was a ripple in the fabric of reality, a shimmering distortion in the crystalline arc of the Bifrost itself. A subtle warmth, like the first rays of spring sun after a long, cruel winter, touched his skin, seeping into his bones, chasing away the pervasive chill that had settled deep within him. It was an inner premonition, a profound sense of rightness, a feeling that something long lost was finally returning. And then he heard it, a distant harmony, faint at first, like the whisper of the wind through ancient trees, but undeniable. It was Odin's song, not a song of battle or triumph, but a melody of quiet strength, of ancient wisdom, a lullaby of homecoming. Relief, so profound it brought tears to his unblinking eyes, washed over him, thawing the frozen grief that had gripped his heart. He straightened his shoulders, his posture regaining its accustomed regal bearing, and a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips. He rose, his resolve hardening like tempered steel, his purpose clear. He would share this nascent hope, this sacred premonition, with those who needed it most. Meanwhile, in her secluded, hallowed garden, Idun despaired. The air, usually thick with the sweet, heady perfume of blooming life, was now heavy with the scent of decay. Her golden apples, the very essence of Asgard's eternal youth and vitality, without which the gods would surely wither and age, now hung limp and shriveled on their branches, their once vibrant, iridescent glow replaced by a dull, mottled brown. Their life force, like a receding tide, was ebbing away, leaving only brittle husks. Idun, usually radiant and brimming with life, was pale and trembling. Her usually nimble fingers, accustomed to tending to vibrant growth, now clutched at the rough bark of a dying tree. She knelt among the withered remnants of her precious orchard, her heart a leaden weight in her chest, each shriveled apple a testament to Asgard's fading glory. A faint warmth, gentle as a butterfly's wing, touched her outstretched hand. It emanated from a particularly shriveled apple, one that seemed beyond saving. As she cradled it, a tiny, almost imperceptible golden spark pulsed within its decaying flesh, a fragile, defiant promise of renewal, a defiant flicker against the encroaching darkness. It was a sign, unmistakable and profound. Odin's touch, his life-giving essence, was returning, reaching out even to the furthest corners of Asgard. A gasp escaped her lips, a sound of profound wonder and dawning comprehension. Idun clutched the apple to her breast, its faint warmth spreading through her, chasing away the cold despair. Hope, a fragile, tender bloom, unfurled within her heart, its petals unfurling towards the distant promise of spring. She rose, her trembling legs finding new strength, her resolve now to tell Frigga, the queen, the one who bore the heaviest burden of all. Frigga sat alone in her chambers, once vibrant and filled with the gentle hum of her loom, now cold and silent as a tomb. 7 months of sorrow, of gnawing guilt, had etched lines of worry around her eyes and silvered strands in her once lustrous hair. She remembered with painful clarity Odin's profound disappointment, the weariness in his eyes as he had turned away, and her own stubborn pride, her refusal to yield, that had ultimately driven him into the desolate reaches of self-imposed exile. A deep, shuddering sigh, heavy with regret, escaped her lips, echoing in the vast, empty room. Then a faint warmth, like a forgotten ember rekindling, spread through her, starting in her chest and blooming outwards. It was a familiar warmth, unmistakably Odin's, a comfort she had longed for, a presence she had mourned. It persisted, growing stronger with each passing moment, chasing away the chill that had settled deep within her very soul. Her gaze, drawn by an unseen force, fell upon a dried forget-me-not, carefully pressed between the pages of an ancient tome. It was a simple, humble flower, a wedding gift from Odin on their first spring together, a silent promise, whispered with a knowing smile, that he would always return to her, no matter how far he roamed. Tears, hot and cleansing, welled in her eyes, not of sorrow this time, but of a profound, aching yearning, a desperate need for his presence. The crushing weight of guilt, which had been her constant companion, began to recede, replaced by a burning, unshakable resolve. She would not despair. She would not allow Asgard to wither. She would find him, humble herself, shed her pride like a discarded cloak, and beg his forgiveness, beg him to return. Frigga rose, a new strength, vibrant and resolute, flowing through her veins. Her movements, once slow and burdened, were now purposeful. She would prepare. She would act. There would be no fanfare, no grand pronouncements, no tearful farewells. This was her personal quest, her sacred duty, her path to atonement. She would speak to Idun and Heimdall first, the two who held the keys to Asgard's vitality and its watchful eyes. She found Idun huddled by a dying apple tree, her shoulders slumped, her spirit as withered as the fruit around her. The biting wind whipped strands of Idun's hair around her face, but she seemed not to notice. Idun, Frigga said, her voice, usually a soft murmur, now held a new, unwavering strength, a resonance that cut through the silence of the dying garden. Idun looked up, her eyes, usually bright as dew-kissed blossoms, were tear-rimmed and dull. The apples. They are dying, my queen, she whispered, her voice thick with despair, a desolate sound in the vast, silent garden. And with them, Asgard. Frigga knelt, her queenly robes brushing the withered leaves. Gently, she took the shriveled apple from Idun's trembling hand, its surface cool and lifeless. But then, as she turned it, she saw it, the faint, almost imperceptible golden spark, a tiny ember of life within the decay. Look closely, my dear, she urged, her voice firm yet gentle, pointing with a steady finger. A glimmer of life, a pulse. Idun gasped, her breath catching in her throat, her eyes widening in disbelief. But how? They were truly gone, I felt it. Not all is lost, Idun, Frigga affirmed, her gaze unwavering, her conviction absolute. This is a sign, a whisper across the realms. Odin is stirring. He is not lost to us forever. Idun's pale face brightened, a fragile bloom of hope spreading across her features. Do you truly believe it, my queen? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might break the fragile spell. I do, Frigga declared, her voice ringing with newfound certainty, echoing against the silent, dying trees. I am going to find him. I am going to bring him home, to Asgard, to us. Idun's eyes shone with renewed hope, reflecting the tiny golden spark from the apple. May the gods bless your journey, my queen, she murmured, her voice filled with profound gratitude. Frigga nodded, a faint, determined smile gracing her lips. Keep hope alive, Idun. Tend to the apples, even the withered ones. Your apples will bloom again. I promise you. Frigga then sought Heimdall at the Bifrost, the very edge of Asgard, where the wind howled with a desolate cry, and the air was thin and sharp as a blade. He stood, a solitary golden figure against the swirling monochromatic sky, his gaze fixed on the distant, unseen realms. Heimdall, she called, her voice carried on the wind, surprisingly strong. He turned, his golden eyes, usually so impassive, widened in surprise, a flicker of something akin to amazement crossing his features. Hope, Heimdall, Frigga stated, her voice resonating with an inner power. Have you felt it? The turning. Heimdall's gaze sharpened, piercing the veil of her emotions, seeing the truth in her heart. The stirring, the faint song, he asked, his deep voice carrying over the wind, a note of wonder in it. Yes, Frigga breathed, her chest swelling with emotion. It is Odin, is it not? He is calling. A shift, my queen, Heimdall corrected gently, his eyes still fixed on the distant horizon, as if he could already see the threads of fate weaving anew. A turning of the tide, a beckoning, yes, but not a call of despair, a call of purpose. He calls to me, Frigga realized, the truth settling deep within her, a profound understanding. Indeed, Heimdall confirmed, his voice solemn. The threads of fate are shifting, Frigga. They are aligning once more with his return. Then my decision is clear, Frigga stated, her voice ringing with unwavering resolve, echoing against the vast emptiness of the cosmos. I am going to him. I will find him, and I will bring him home. For Asgard, for us all. Heimdall's expression was solemn, his golden eyes reflecting the swirling colors of the Bifrost. The journey will be perilous, my queen. The realms beyond Asgard are vast and unforgiving, fraught with dangers both seen and unseen. Many have ventured into the cosmic winds, few have returned unaltered. I know, Heimdall, Frigga replied, her gaze steady, meeting his without flinching. Her heart beat with a steady, determined rhythm. But I cannot stand by. Not anymore. Not while Asgard suffers. Not while my husband is lost. Heimdall nodded slowly, a profound respect dawning in his eyes. Your resolve is strong, my queen, stronger than any I have witnessed. May your path be true, and may the stars guide your way. Will you stand watch, Heimdall? Frigga asked, her voice softer now, a plea for vigilance. Will you guard Asgard in my absence? Always, my queen, Heimdall promised, his hand instinctively going to the hilt of Gjallarhorn, his sentinel's duty reaffirmed. Until your glorious return. Frigga turned towards the shimmering, crystalline arc of the Bifrost. Its colors, usually vibrant, muted by the prevailing gloom. But beneath the surface, she felt the new hum, the promise of warmth. She looked back at Asgard, its golden spires dulled by the winter's grip, its people hidden within their homes, unaware of the queen's desperate quest. A silent promise formed in her heart, echoing through the vast, empty spaces of the realm. She would not fail them. She would not fail Odin. She would not fail herself. She wrapped her cloak tighter around her shoulders, its thick, fur-lined fabric offering scant protection against the cosmic chill. But her spirit was warm, burning with purpose, a beacon in the encroaching darkness. She took a deep breath, the cold air filling her lungs, sharp and invigorating. And then, with a determined step, she moved onto the Bifrost, its surface humming beneath her feet, a silent song of departure. The journey began. A solitary quest into the vast, unknown cosmos. A queen's profound atonement for a pride that had cost her so much. A wife's unwavering love, a force more powerful than any magic. The colors of the Bifrost, once muted, now swirled around her, building in intensity. Emerald green, sapphire blue, ruby red, amethyst purple, a kaleidoscope of cosmic energy. She moved forward, her steps firm, her heart a beacon, radiating a silent, powerful light, guiding her towards the whisper of hope, towards the faint, distant harmony that was Odin's song. The myriad realms, each with its own unique challenges and wonders, awaited her, stretching out before her like an infinite tapestry. But Frigga was ready. She was Frigga, the seeker of lost light. Frigga, the redeemer of broken bonds. Frigga, the unwavering heart of Asgard. Her purpose was clear, etched into the very core of her being. To humble herself, to beg for his return, and to restore the light to Asgard, to their home. With a final, shimmering burst of light, she vanished into the vibrant, swirling vortex of the Bifrost. Asgard watched, unknowingly, its people slumbering in their sorrow, unaware of the brave queen who had embarked on such a perilous journey for their sake. In the distance, beyond the veil of the worlds, a faint melody hummed, growing stronger with each passing moment. A song of reunion, a call to home, a promise of warmth. Frigga followed its echo, her heart her compass, her love her guide, and Odin her ultimate destination. The endless winter would not last forever. Spring, a true spring, awaited. Frigga stepped into the biting wind. The air grew thin and sharp. Her cloak whipped around her. Each gust felt like a cold whisper. The path ahead was bleak. It stretched endlessly, a ribbon of gray stone. Jagged peaks clawed at the sky. They wore crowns of perpetual snow. She walked for what seemed like ages. Her feet ached with every step. The silence was profound here. Only the wind sang its mournful song. Suddenly, the air shimmered. 3 figures emerged from the mist. They sat by a gnarled, ancient tree. Its roots twisted like old stories. These were the Norns, she knew. Their faces were etched with time. One spun a thread, thin and bright. Another measured it with solemn eyes. The third cut it with a sharp, silver blade. Frigga, the first Norn said. Her voice was like rustling leaves. The threads of fate are tangled. Yours especially, the second added. Her gaze was deep and knowing, a knot of sorrow and longing. The third Norn held up a shimmering thread. It pulsed with a faint light. Forgiveness is a delicate weave. Her voice was soft, yet firm. Frigga felt a chill. Where is Odin? She asked. Her voice was a mere whisper. Tell me if you know. The Norns exchanged glances. Their eyes held ancient secrets. He seeks solitude, the first said. A place untouched by time. A quiet grove, the second added, where worries fade like mist. The third Norn gestured vaguely. Follow the echoes of his heart. Her hand was surprisingly gentle. They will guide your way. Frigga thanked them. She resumed her journey. Their words offered little comfort, yet they stirred a flicker of hope. The landscape grew more desolate. Rocks jutted out like broken bones. No birds sang here. No flowers bloomed. She remembered Odin's face. His sadness had been a heavy cloak. It had settled deep within her, a constant, aching weight. Her heart ached with regret. The necklace felt heavy on her chest. It was a constant reminder, a symbol of her past folly. Days bled into nights. The sun was a pale disk, the moon a sliver of ice. Time lost all meaning here. She stumbled often. Her legs burned with fatigue. Yet she pushed onward. Her resolve was unwavering. Then she saw them, figures soaring on the wind. Their armor gleamed like polished silver. Their wings beat with powerful grace. The Valkyries, Odin's chosen, they descended slowly. Their spears glinted in the dim light. Frigga, one Valkyrie called. Her voice was strong and clear. Your journey is long, and your spirit tested, another added. Her eyes were keen and piercing. But your purpose is true. We will guide you, the third said. Her smile was gentle. To the place of quiet contemplation. Frigga nodded her thanks. A wave of relief washed over her. Their presence was a beacon, a sign she was close. The Valkyries flew ahead. They moved with silent precision. Frigga followed their path. Her steps were lighter now. The air began to change. A subtle shift in the breeze. It carried the scent of pine and damp earth. The landscape softened. Harsh rocks gave way to gentle slopes. Trees appeared, first sparse, then dense. A forest emerged from the gloom. The Valkyries landed softly. They stood by a clearing. A hush fell over the woods, a sense of profound peace. He is there, one Valkyrie whispered. Her voice was reverent. In the heart of this grove, Frigga approached slowly. Her heart pounded in her chest. Each step was deliberate, each breath a silent prayer. The clearing was bathed in soft light. Ancient trees formed a natural cathedral. Their branches intertwined overhead, creating a canopy of green. In the center, Odin sat. He was on a mossy stone. His head was bowed low. His staff lay beside him. He was cloaked in stillness. His ravens, Hugin and Munin, perched near him. They watched her approach, their eyes intelligent and knowing. His one eye was closed. The other gazed into the distance. He seemed lost in thought, a world away from all sorrow. Frigga stopped a few paces away. She took a deep breath. The air here was fresh, scented with ancient wisdom. She reached for the necklace. Her fingers trembled slightly. She unclasped it with care. The golden links felt cool. Odin, she said softly. Her voice was barely a whisper. It seemed to hang in the air, a fragile, hopeful sound. He stirred slowly. His head lifted. His eye opened fully. It met hers across the space. His gaze was weary, but not unkind. A flicker of surprise, then recognition. Frigga, he murmured, His voice was rough, like stones tumbling over each other. "You have come." She stepped closer, her hands extended. The necklace rested in her open palm. It shimmered faintly. "I have," she replied. Her voice gained strength. "I have come to return this." She held it out to him. "It was a gift," she said, "a symbol of your love. But I betrayed that love." Her voice was filled with remorse. "And I carry that burden. I do not deserve it." Her eyes met his directly. "Not now, not ever. My heart is heavy with regret." She swallowed hard. "For my foolishness, my pride. I have traveled far." She gestured vaguely. "Through desolate lands and harsh winds. I have faced my own solitude." Her voice was raw with emotion. "And seen my flaws clearly. I have yearned for your forgiveness." A tear traced a path down her cheek. More than anything, Odin watched her, his expression unreadable. He did not reach for the necklace. He simply observed. "I understand now," she continued. Her voice was steady. "The true value of fidelity and the pain of its absence." Her gaze was unwavering. "The emptiness it leaves behind. I offer you not just this necklace." She held it out further. "But my heart, humbled and true. I seek only your understanding." Her voice was earnest, and a chance to mend what was broken. The silence stretched between them. It was thick with unspoken words, with shared history and pain. Odin's gaze softened. He looked at the necklace, then back at Frigga. His single eye held depths. He slowly extended his hand, not to take the necklace, but to gently cup her hand. His touch was warm, a familiar comfort. It sent a jolt through her, a spark of hope. "Frigga," he said. His voice was low, filled with ancient sorrow. "The past is a heavy shadow, but the future," he continued. His thumb brushed her skin, "can be a new dawn. I have walked in darkness." His gaze was distant. "Since that day, my world was muted." He closed his eye for a moment. Colors faded. "But your journey," he said. His eye opened again. "Your earnest plea. They have stirred something." A faint light entered his gaze. "Within my weary heart." He gently pushed her hand back. The necklace remained in her palm. "Keep it," he said. His voice was soft. "It is yours now," he added. "A symbol of a different truth, a truth of forgiveness." He looked at her deeply, and enduring love. Frigga felt a rush of emotion. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming relief. "Odin," she whispered, her voice choked with feeling. "Thank you." He stood slowly. His movements were deliberate. He was still the mighty Allfather, but softened by sorrow. He reached out his other hand. He gently took her chin. He lifted her face. Their eyes met again. "The path was long," he said. His thumb stroked her cheek. "But you found your way." "And I," he added. A faint smile touched his lips. "Have been waiting." He drew her closer. His arms encircled her. She leaned into his embrace. The warmth was enveloping. It was a comfort she had longed for. a solace beyond words. The scent of him, the strength of his arms. She felt the tension leave her body. The heavy burden lifted, replaced by a profound peace. His cheek rested on her hair. His breath warmed her ear. "We have much to discuss," he murmured. "Much to heal." His voice was tender. "Much to rebuild." She nodded, unable to speak. Her heart swelled with gratitude. This quiet grove, this tender reunion. The ravens shifted on his shoulders. Hugin let out a soft coo. Munin ruffled his feathers. They seemed to smile. The Valkyries watched from afar. Their forms shimmered. They began to ascend, leaving the two alone. The sun began to set, casting long shadows, painting the sky in hues of gold and soft rose. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves. The air was filled with quiet, with the promise of renewal. Frigga closed her eyes. She savored the moment, the feel of his arms around her, the beating of his heart. It was a new beginning, not just for them, but for their love, stronger now, forged in adversity. The necklace still rested in her hand. It felt lighter now, a testament to their journey, a symbol of hope. She would wear it always, not as a reminder of past transgression, but as a beacon of forgiveness and the enduring power of love, a love that had weathered the storm and found its way home. Odin held her close. He breathed in her scent, the familiar fragrance of home, of comfort, of peace. His own heart felt lighter. The heavy cloak of sorrow began to lift, piece by gentle piece. The silence was not empty. It was filled with understanding, with unspoken apologies, with renewed trust. The grove seemed to hum with a quiet energy, a sense of rightness, of harmony restored. They stood there for a long time, simply holding each other, letting the quiet mend their souls. The stars began to appear, pinpricks of light in the darkening sky, each one a silent witness to a love reborn, to a bond reaffirmed, to a future built on forgiveness and unwavering devotion. Frigga looked up at him, her eyes filled with love. "My Odin," she whispered. Her voice was soft. He smiled down at her, a genuine smile, one she had not seen in too long. "My Frigga." And in that moment, under the vast, silent sky, all was well, all was calm, all was at peace. Odin watched Frigga, her head was bowed. Tears still traced pathways on her cheeks. He saw her true sorrow there, a genuine remorse. This was not the cunning he had known. This was a changed heart. He reached out slowly. His hand, gnarled and strong, rested on her arm. She flinched slightly. Then she leaned into his touch. A sigh escaped her lips. It was soft, like a whisper of wind. "Frigga," he began, his voice a low rumble. It held no anger now, only a deep, abiding weariness. "My dear Frigga." She looked up at him. Her eyes, still red-rimmed, met his. "I see your heart," he said gently. "I see its true regret. A small sob escaped her. "Odin," she whispered. Her voice was fragile. "Can you ever forgive me?" Her plea hung in the air. It was heavy with unspoken pain. He nodded slowly. A single tear traced a path down his weathered face. It was a tear of sorrow. It was also a tear of relief. "Yes, Frigga," he said. His voice was steady now. "I can." Her breath hitched. A wave of emotion washed over her. She reached for his hand. Her fingers intertwined with his. They held tightly. A silent understanding passed between them. It spanned years of joy. It spanned years of sorrow. "But you must understand," Odin continued. His grip tightened slightly. "Honesty is the bedrock. It is the very foundation of our trust. It is the core of our love." He looked deeply into her eyes. "It must never be broken again." She nodded fiercely. Her head bobbed. "Never, Odin," she vowed. Her voice was firm. It was resolute. "Never again will I deceive you." Her gaze was unwavering. "I promise this to you." A fragile smile touched Odin's lips. It was a rare sight. It spoke of profound peace. He drew her gently closer. She rested her head on his shoulder. Her body trembled slightly. He held her close. He felt her warmth. It was a warmth he had deeply missed. "Let us return home, Frigga," he murmured. His voice was soft. It was filled with hope. "Let us go back to Asgard." He stroked her hair gently. It felt like spun moonlight. "Let us heal our realm." She nodded against him. A sense of peace settled over them. It was a quiet, profound peace. The biting wind still swirled around them. The icy landscape stretched endlessly, but within their small circle, warmth bloomed. It was a promise of renewal. They rose together. Their movements were slow. They were deliberate. Odin still leaned on Gungnir. Its shaft felt lighter somehow. Frigga walked beside him. Her steps were steady. She felt a lightness in her heart. They turned towards the distant glimmer. It was the Bifrost Bridge. Its colors shimmered faintly. Even from afar, it beckoned them. It was a path to home. It was a path to healing. The journey back was quiet. There was little conversation. There was no need for words. Their hands remained clasped. Their bond felt stronger now. It was forged anew in pain. It was forged anew in forgiveness. As they neared the Bifrost, a subtle change began. The air grew perceptibly warmer. A gentle breeze stirred. It carried a hint of spring. It was a faint, sweet scent. It was the scent of thawing earth. The vibrant hues of the Bifrost grew brighter. They pulsed with an inner light. It was a welcoming beacon. They stepped onto the iridescent path. Its surface hummed beneath their feet. It resonated with ancient power. And then something truly miraculous began. As they crossed the shimmering bridge, a wave of warmth spread. It radiated outwards from them. It flowed across the vast expanse. It flowed towards Asgard. Below them, the frozen landscape stirred. The thick blanket of snow began to melt. It melted in shimmering rivulets. They snaked across the land. They carved new paths. They fed the thirsty earth. Tiny green shoots emerged. They pushed through the thawing soil. They reached for the light. Dormant buds swelled on trees. Their branches had been bare. Now they hinted at new life. The air filled with a soft hum. It was the sound of awakening. It was the sound of life returning. A faint, sweet scent now intensified. It was the fragrance of growing things. It was the promise of rebirth. Asgard itself seemed to sigh. It was a sigh of relief. The golden spires, once dulled by frost, began to gleam. They caught the returning light. They shone with renewed brilliance. The clouds above them parted. A soft, golden sunlight streamed down. It bathed the realm in warmth. It chased away the shadows. The sky above Asgard was clear. It was a vibrant, hopeful blue. They stepped off the Bifrost. They stood once more on Asgardian soil. The air was fresh. It was clean. It was filled with the scent of pine. It was filled with the scent of damp earth. The transformation was astounding. It was immediate. It was profound. Where once there was desolation, now there was life. Where once there was silence, now there was a gentle hum. Birds, long absent, returned. Their songs filled the air. They were joyful melodies. They were songs of homecoming. Small animals scurried through the undergrowth. They had emerged from hibernation. They greeted the returning warmth. Asgard was not yet fully restored, but the healing had begun. It was a visible process. It was a tangible promise. The snow continued to recede. The green growth expanded. It spread like a verdant tide. They walked slowly towards the golden hall. Every step revealed more beauty. Every step revealed more life. The gardens, once stark and barren, showed signs of revival. Tiny blossoms dotted the ground. Their colors were vibrant. The fountains, once frozen solid, now gurgled. Water cascaded over stone. It sparkled in the sunlight. Its sound was a gentle murmur. It was a soothing melody. It was a song of renewal. The air was filled with a gentle warmth. It was a comforting embrace. It was the warmth of home. The very stones of Asgard seemed to hum. They resonated with positive energy. They vibrated with renewed life. They reached the great doors of the Golden Hall. They stood open wide. A soft, golden light spilled forth. It beckoned them inside. They entered together. Their hearts were full. The vast hall was still quiet, but the chill was gone. The air was soft. It was inviting. The tapestries on the walls seemed brighter. They glowed with vibrant hues. The polished floors gleamed. They walked towards the throne room. Their footsteps echoed softly. They were sounds of return. They were sounds of hope. The throne room, too, was transformed. It was filled with a gentle light. There, in the center of the hall, stood Odin's great statue. It was carved from ancient, weathered wood. It depicted him in his youthful prime. He was strong. He was resolute. Frigga stopped before it. She looked at the empty space. It was where the golden ornament had rested. Her heart ached with regret. She had betrayed his trust. She had caused him pain. Odin gently touched her shoulder. "It is time, Frigga," he said softly. His voice was kind. "It is time to heal completely." He looked at the statue. His gaze was thoughtful. She nodded. From a pouch at her waist, she drew the golden ornament. It glittered in the soft light. It was intricately crafted. It was a symbol of their bond. It was a symbol of their power. She held it for a moment. Her fingers traced its delicate curves. She remembered her fear. She remembered her foolishness. She remembered her deception. And she remembered Odin's pain. Then, with a deep breath, she reached up. Her hand was steady. She placed the ornament gently. It settled perfectly into its groove. It fit as though it belonged. It fit as though it had never left. A soft glow emanated from the ornament. It spread across the statue. It enveloped the room. It was a warm, golden light. It was a light of reconciliation. It was a light of forgiveness. The statue seemed to shift. Its expression softened. It looked less stern. It looked more welcoming. The ornament now gleamed brightly. It was a beacon of hope. It was a testament to enduring love. Frigga stepped back. She looked at her handiwork. A tear, this time of joy, escaped her eye. She felt a profound sense of peace. Her heart felt lighter. A great burden had lifted. Odin stood beside her. He placed his arm around her waist. He drew her close. Their eyes met. A silent understanding passed between them. It was deeper than words. It transcended all past hurts. "It is more than just an ornament now, Frigga," Odin said quietly. His voice was filled with emotion. "It is a symbol of our journey." He squeezed her gently. "It is a symbol of our renewed trust." She leaned into him. Her head rested on his shoulder. "And of our honesty, Odin," she added softly. "And of our enduring love." Her voice was filled with tenderness. It was filled with devotion. Outside the golden hall, Asgard continued its slow, beautiful revival. The sun climbed higher. Its rays warmed the land. The melting snow revealed lush meadows. They were vibrant green. They stretched to the horizon. Flowers bloomed in profusion. Their colors were brilliant. Their scents filled the air. They swayed gently in the breeze. Bees buzzed among them. Their sounds were a gentle drone. The rivers flowed freely now. Their waters sparkled. They rushed over smooth stones. Their sounds were a joyful murmur. They sang a song of life. They sang a song of abundance. The trees began to bud. Their branches unfurled delicate leaves. They were a vivid green. They whispered in the wind. They promised shade. They promised shelter. Asgard was not merely restored. It was stronger. It was more vibrant. It had faced a harsh winter. It had endured a period of coldness. But now it emerged renewed. It emerged with greater resilience. The love between Odin and Frigga had also undergone a transformation. It was no longer a love taken for granted. It was a love tested. It was a love deepened by shared pain. It was a love reborn through forgiveness. They had learned a valuable lesson. Honesty was paramount. It was the true strength of any bond. Forgiveness was essential. It allowed healing to begin. It allowed love to flourish. Their shared experience had forged them anew. They stood together. They were united. They were stronger than ever before. Their bond was unbreakable. It was eternal. Odin looked out over his realm. Frigga stood beside him. His heart swelled with gratitude. He had his queen back. He had his love. And Asgard, his beloved home, was healing. The golden ornament on his statue gleamed. It caught the sunlight. It reflected their renewed hope. It was a silent testament. It spoke of trials overcome. It spoke of love triumphant. Frigga turned to him. She smiled. Her smile was radiant. It was filled with warmth. It was filled with peace. "Our home is beautiful, Odin," she said softly. Her voice was filled with love. He wrapped his arm tighter around her. He kissed the top of her head. "Yes, my love," he murmured. His voice was husky with emotion. "And our love is even more so." The twilight began to settle over Asgard. The sky turned to hues of rose and gold. The stars began to twinkle. They were tiny diamond chips. They dotted the vast expanse. A gentle hush fell over the realm. It was a peaceful quiet. It was a comforting silence. The sounds of nature continued. The rustle of leaves, the murmur of water, the distant hoot of an owl. Odin and Frigga stood together. They watched the stars appear. They felt the gentle breeze. They were home. They were whole. Their hearts were filled with a profound sense of peace. The story concluded there. It was a tale of love. It was a tale of betrayal. It was a tale of forgiveness. It was a reminder of honesty's power. It was a testament to love's enduring strength. And as the last golden rays faded, a quiet understanding settled. Even in the grand realms of gods, the simplest truths held the greatest power. Honesty, forgiveness, and love, these were the true treasures. They were the eternal foundations. They brought warmth even to the coldest of winters. They brought light even to the darkest of nights. And they promised a lasting peace, a peace that settled over Asgard, a peace that settled over its king and queen, a peace that settled over all who heard their tale, a quiet, gentle peace. It was the peace of a story well told. It was the peace of a journey completed. It was the peace of a love restored. And now, dear listener, may that peace find you too. May it fill your heart. May it bring you gentle dreams. Sweet dreams, little one. Sweet dreams. If these whispers brought you rest, you're welcome to subscribe for more calm tales. A gentle, like also guides fellow night owls here.